Welcome back to another episode of Life in the Stands podcast. We have Bender, Zach, and Beans on the podcast today. We're really excited. We're going to talk all about NFL free agency. We're going to leave it kind of open, so it's going to be a little bit of a different format, but really excited to just dive into everything that's going on with NFL free agency this year. It kind of feels like a franchise with the boys, a Madden franchise with the boys this year. Running backs going everywhere, people getting released, trades happening. It's been a lot of fun. So before that, though, real quick, thank you again for listening and watching. We definitely appreciate your support. We are on Twitter at stands_life. Come follow us and come interact. That's definitely where we're most active. You can also subscribe on YouTube and like the video. It really helps out. And then go ahead and follow us on TikTok and Spotify as well at Life in the Stands. To kick us off with NFL free agency, though, Bender's going to jump right into one of the moves, one of the many moves that's happened, and then we'll just kind of take it from there.
Yeah, you guys are probably not ready for the way I'm gonna talk about this move and what direction I'm going with this move. But a big move from free agency this past week was the Derrick Henry signing for the Ravens. I don't think it's a big move in regards to making the Ravens better. The timing of this move makes it very unfortunate as a Cowboys fan. There's a lot of other running backs that were already off the table at this point, whether it was Joe Mixon or Josh Jacobs. Even Aaron Jones was quickly released and signed by the Vikings.
Yeah, like
Tony
tomorrow.
Pollard, Tony Pollard to the Titans happened almost immediately.
Eckler,
Um, yeah, Eckler,
Eckler, Commanders.
yeah, Commanders. So there was a big carousel of running backs this year that the Cowboys thought they were going to have a chance at, and at the end of the day, never signed anybody at any position until tonight. We stole Eric Kendricks from the Niners not too long ago. Sorry, Beans. Um,
You can have
but
him. He's
no,
slow.
yeah. So I just thought it was a big deal as a Cowboys fan, just because we were expecting a big name running back to come in, and I don't know what direction Jerry Jones is planning on going in at this point.
To the
Yeah, it
draft.
does make you wonder, like, if they made a run at any of those guys. Like how many conversations did the Cowboys have? Like were they in on any of those conversations? I haven't seen any reports that said like attach the Cowboys to any one of those names besides Derrick Henry. But even that wasn't like reports that were like talks were going on. It was just like, oh, that would be sick. So I really wonder how involved they even were in some of those discussions, how aggressive they even were, and was the media even right? Like were the Cowboys actually even in play for a big name running back?
Yeah, the way the whole process made me feel was like we went all or nothing for Derrick Henry. It didn't sound like we went for anybody else but Derrick Henry. And now we're talking about like secondary running backs of like Zeke coming back and AJ Dillon from the Packers. Like that's what we're talking about now. And that's a Jerry Jones problem. If you only target one person, don't get him, you're screwed. I don't know if that's true or not, obviously, but in regards to the reports, that's what it makes you think about. So
Beans, how
Yeah,
do you
you
feel
just
about Eric
see the
Kendricks being
Cowboys.
taken? How do you
You
feel
just
about
love
Eric Kendricks
seeing
being taken away?
I'm just saying, you just love seeing the Cowboys suffer. That's just the best thing you can ask for as a Niners fan or an NFL fan. So, and it's scary hours for the entire NFL for that at that point. Like we were talking in the group chat earlier, or when it happened, like the amount of things that they're going to be able to do with Derrick Henry and that line and the weapons that they have on the outside. And like I mean, you have the MVP and you're giving him one of the best five players that are at his position, or three even maybe. So yeah, I mean it's tough for the Cowboys because like you said, if they only went after one guy and they swung and missed, that really looks bad. But does it look much better if they're doing their homework on every other running back and every other running back saying, nah, we don't really even want to be here? Um, because like for me, like, what is the appeal of being a Dallas Cowboy right now?
literally nothing.
Exactly
And
my
Income taxes.
right income
yeah,
taxes.
exactly.
And you guys got a second, I guess a low end starter for a linebacker is your only free agent other than like I think re-signing your long snapper or something like that. So
And now it's to the point where like the Houston Texans are the best team in Texas. Like that's what we're at right now. And I think the Joe Mixon signing for them is a very big deal. Just to have some kind of consistency at that spot. I still think they need a secondary running back just because of his health issues at times. But like if he's healthy, if they get Tank Dell back healthy, they're adding a bunch of defensive pieces. They got Daniel Hunter as well. That team looks loaded. I honestly would take them over the Ravens right now.
I mean, taking them over the
really,
Ravens with the MVP is interesting. I think one thing with the Derrick Henry signing that people aren't talking about though is that Keaton Mitchell had a breakout season last year. And
Thunder and Lightning.
he's probably one of the fastest running backs. So now you got a true thunder and lightning, yeah, which is really incredible there. The other flip side of that, let's just read off what the Houston Texans have done here for a second because it's been incredible. Yeah, they got Joe Mixon, they re-signed Dalton Schultz, they have Danico Autry, signed Daniil Hunter, they brought in Aziz Al-Shaair, brought in Mike Ford, Lonnie Johnson, Desmond King, Jeff Okuda,
Can't keep
Derek
up.
Curry, and then re-signed their kicker. So I mean
And who did they
that's
lose? They lost Malik Collins, shout out Niners, 7th round pick. And
yep.
then they lost Greenard to the
No,
Vikings on
yeah,
the 4-year 72.
yeah,
Uh
but incredible
which
offseason.
Yeah, which you're losing
Already.
two big starters on your defense, but how many spots have you? I mean, you already filled it with an edge rusher. You already have, I'm assuming somebody you like on the roster at defensive tackle. And now you have extra draft compensation. So
Yep.
yeah, the Texans are doing as long as these guys pan out, they're having a great offseason.
Yeah.
Uh,
Something I think is really cool about this is that I think they're trying to capitalize on the moment as well. They saw how they progressed last year already with CJ
mhm,
Stroud and what they could do when healthy. And the AFC was open last year. And let's be real, like we don't know what the Bengals are going to look like. We don't know what the Steelers are going to look like. We don't know what the
mhm.
Browns are going to look like because they never know what they're going to look like. There's like a bunch of question marks. The Dolphins, like all those teams.
Bills.
Um, yeah, Bills lost Davis
Bills,
as well, and
yeah.
I think that's
Well,
a big deal.
Davis, their safety, they
Yeah.
lost Leonard Floyd. They've lost a lot. They
Yeah,
lost a
like
lot.
Titans are rebuilding. The Jags have question marks about Trevor Lawrence. There's so many question marks in that whole conference that I think they're trying to capitalize, and they are a top three team. If you put them there with the Ravens and the Chiefs, um, and the Chiefs, I think, are still going to make another move. I wouldn't be surprised if they get a Mike Williams or a Mike Thomas, some kind of veteran wide receiver to fill that room up.
Hmm.
Um, So I just think it's a very interesting and fun way to look at the conference next year.
It'll be interesting too because along with CJ Stroud, I think credit also has to be given to D'Amico Ryans. Like it's
I was
not
thinking
only
the same thing.
yeah, it's
I was
not
thinking
right.
the
It's
same
not
thing.
only CJ Stroud. And I think what's happening with the Texans right now is exactly what happened with the Bengals after Joe Burrow's rookie season. Or I guess Joe Burrow got hurt his rookie season, but that first year he came back and he actually played. And I remember at the time Mike Hilton, who was one of the Steelers, he was a great slot corner for the Steelers. I like Mike Hilton a lot. He went to the Bengals,
One
and
of
it
the
was
best in the league.
because right, and it was because he's like, hey, like they have a guy, like they have a guy at that position, and to win in this league in the playoffs, you need a guy at that position. So I think part of all those other free agent signings that the Texans are making too is because those guys know that there's a guy in Houston that they can rely on, and they know they're going to a team that's going to have a chance against the Mahomes, going to have a chance against the
Mhm.
Josh Allens, going to have a chance against the Burrows because CJ Stroud is there. So I'm really excited to see like how CJ Stroud's career plays out because I think, like you said too, the Texans saw it as well, and they're like, yeah, okay, let's go, let's go all in. And I think that's awesome from the organization. And you
Mhm.
haven't seen great management from the Texans organization recently. So to see them be competent in this way is like hell yeah, like let's see a good Texans team again for like a couple years in a row. That's awesome.
Yeah, and with that too is like you said, like CJ Stroud having the rookie season that he had and showing the promise that he did. Pair that, like you said, with some credit to D'Amico Ryans, like a lot of the free agents have been defensive big key players because they know that he has been in their shoes quite literally. He knows how to maximize their potential. And I think that, I mean, they look at how the defense was playing at the end of the year last year. They were playing amazing to end the season. So, yeah, no, I'm definitely a huge D'Amico Ryans fan and definitely looking forward to seeing what they do in the season this year for sure.
Let's just hope and pray that they're healthy because I think it'll go very well for them.
Yeah.
Daniil Hunter specifically is the only thing that gives me any sort of like cause for worry is he's a 30-year-old edge rusher and he's getting paid $25 million a season.
Right.
And
Right.
I mean, when was the last time we played 16 games or 17 games?
Yeah. Yeah. It could end up like a little bit of like a Von Miller situation, right? Which
Mhm.
which is not great. But
Or
let's go
D4 with
all
the
the way
Niners a
back.
couple years ago.
Right, right. And let's go all the way back to the very first signing Bender talked about, the Derrick Henry signing, because obviously I can't go the whole podcast without talking about the Steelers like good but weird offseason, like good but weird start to free agency. Patrick Queen signed the day after with the Steelers, the day after Derrick Henry signed. And I think that's twofold. I think number one, the Steelers are saying this is the richest free agent contract the Steelers have ever signed. In Steelers history, it's the richest free
That's
agent contract
believable.
ever,
That's
right?
believable.
And I think what you see with that is number one, you're taking an all-pro linebacker away from the Ravens, so they have to find a way to fill that gap. And you just
Mhm.
saw them sign Derrick Henry, so you got to bring in someone that can match that. I think that's the best. I mean, it's the best free agent signing that I've ever seen the Steelers make because it fills that gap that Ryan Shazier left for so long. And then just a couple of podcast episodes ago, I did a My GM segment with the Steelers, and I talked about how I would go about this offseason. And a couple of things that I mentioned that we should cut Pat Pete. I mentioned that we should cut Allen Robinson. I did say that we should take Najee's fifth-year option, and I did say we should restructure Hayward and Fletcher Cox. Those things haven't happened yet. I also said we should trade the second and the fifth for Fields, which obviously is not going to happen at this point.
Oh, definitely not a second. Yeah, I mean,
Well, I
even if you,
mean,
oh yeah, with Russ, yeah, no
with
shit.
Russ, or even Fields at all, right? Like
Yeah,
it makes no
yeah.
sense. And I mean, for how cheap Russ is going to be, my attitude on that is even kind of shifted because I during that segment I was like, I don't think this. I think the Steelers are a great fit for Russ, but I don't think the Steelers would do it. Now the Steelers have done it, and I'm like, oh shit, like they did it. Like I'm kind of excited about
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see what happens in the AFC too. I think the Steelers have more figured out than people give them credit for. Because even in the cornerback room, like Corey Trice Jr. is going to come back from injury, and he had the best training camp of any corner we had last year, but then didn't play all season because of an injury.
Well,
Mhm.
my thing is like you're getting Russell Wilson for a very cheap deal at this point, and it's worth the experiment for how cheap he is, just because you've had that issue at quarterback at least for the last 2 years,
Yeah,
and it's worth the experiment because the rest of the guys are put around him already. Like
yeah,
you don't have to worry about any other position players except for maybe
Not
wideout
all
at
of
this
them.
point.
Yeah,
yeah. You need
Deontay
another
Johnson's
wideout
getting
now.
traded.
You need another wideout now for sure because you traded Deontay, and
Yeah, but
that
guess what?
compensation was low.
It-
It was low.
It's but there's receivers in the draft, and this is the best receiver draft since the last best receiver draft. So
Right,
you guys can take multiple shots, and knowing how the receiver or the Steelers draft receivers, you're probably gonna have another good productive young guy on the team.
right.
I expect them to draft or like receivers at this point, but I still wouldn't be surprised if they would go out and get a veteran wideout like an Allen Robinson, except somebody that can contribute a little bit more than him. Because that signing didn't really work out last year.
Like Tyler
Um,
Boyd.
yeah,
Tyler
Tyler
Boyd.
Boyd even. Yeah, that's a name that I see floating around a lot.
Yeah,
So
and he played at Pitt too, right? So I think there's mutual interest there. There's been mutual interest there. I think in a dream scenario, you bring in a guy like Tyler Boyd, that'd be a great phenomenal veteran to keep around. And then I've seen reports that actually have come out since the Deontay Johnson trade. The Steelers had multiple top 30 visits with wide receivers that are slated to go in the top 10. They met with Roma Dunze. They met with Adonai Mitchell. I think they met
What's
with
your guys' pick?
um, who would be my pick?
No, what is your guys' pick over?
20. They're at 20.
Well, they traded up once in the draft a couple years ago for
It was
Devin Book.
last year. It was last year for Broderick Jones, right? So Omar,
Oh, they traded. Oh, yeah,
Omar
yeah,
Khan will
yeah.
do that. Omar Khan will do that. So I'm
Uh-huh.
thinking, but even at 20, like I think a guy like Adonai Mitchell may fall to 20. I think a guy like Xavier Worthy might fall to 20.
Yeah. Who's that? Leggett from South Carolina is
Leggett,
day two. Yeah.
they too,
Uh,
right? So, and I mean, imagine a guy like Xavier Worthy with a guy like Russ who literally wants to throw the deep ball, and then you have
or check
Xavier
down.
Worthy and you have George Pickens, and you have like
well,
extreme speed and then extreme like one-on-one contested catch. I'm excited about what the Steelers will do in the draft.
I'll say you want to talk about the deep ball. I think Pickens is going to thrive off of that big
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
Big.
Those moon balls from Russ.
Yeah, and we can move off the Steelers now too. But the last thing I'll say is, as far as Kenny Pickett's development goes, I also don't think this is a bad thing. I don't think it's a bad thing to sit behind Russ for a year or two. He's a Super Bowl winning quarterback. He did have a great year. Like, he had 26 touchdowns and 8 picks, and he sat out the last 2 games. And he was top 5 in passing yards before he sat out too. So I don't think it's like, and you look at their raw athletic scores, you look at their combine numbers, you look at the way that they've played. They both are a little undersized. They both thrive off play action. They both are just mobile enough. Like there's a lot of similarities in the way Pickett could model his game after Russ. So I don't think I don't think that's a bad thing for his development either. Even though like I know people want to see his third year, you want to see that development, but like I don't think it's a bad thing in the long run. I think it turns into like a Jordan Love situation.
Well, if anything, I mean, if you're looking at it from a pro Pickett side, you're saying, I mean, Russ be damned, he's making 1.2 million. I'm still the starter of this team, and I can beat him out Because at the end of the day, like as cool of a name as Russ is, and the situation with the Steelers as good as it is, somebody is paying him $85 million to not be on their team anymore, and
Correct.
they're choosing to do that. So it'll be a real, I think it'll be a really interesting dynamic going into camp, is like, who gets the ones, how many twos reps, and like,
Yeah.
it's gonna, a lot of people are gonna talk about it, man. A lot of people are gonna talk about it. And if Pickett does beat out Russ or whatever you want to say, like what does that leave? Does Russ get cut? Does he back up Pickett in hopes that he can potentially,
Right.
Pickett like trash or something like that, that it's just, in my opinion, it's a can of worms. I don't know.
But
See, I don't.
for the Steelers, it feels like a win-win though, right? Because either
No,
way,
no,
you're gonna be
100%,
putting out a new
100%,
quarterback.
100%. Yeah. From the
Russ
long,
is
you just got to deal with the BS in the middle, I guess.
Well, Russ is definitely brought in to have Kenny Pickett compete with somebody that's
Right.
not a Mason Rudolph anymore.
Hmm.
So I don't think that does anything but benefit him, at least for the next 2, 3 years and his development. Now it's not quite the same situation, but I think the situation that Pickett was thrown into with Canada being the coordinator was similar to like Sam Darnold being drafted to the Jets years ago. Like he had no hope.
Adam
Um,
Gase.
yeah, anybody that went to the Jets just had no hope. Um, so I just think it's very interesting. And with him not being paid as much by the Steelers, Russell Wilson will have a short leash. I don't see the season starting where Russ doesn't start for that team. So he might start the first couple of games, and if he falls off, at least you have that depth to fall back on. But I think if you got Russ, you're going to start Russ,
Right.
You don't think there's
and
gonna
at
be any
least
sort
have
of
him
competition, or
uh,
like, are you gonna, or is it gonna be like they're competing in camp, but Russ,
competing in camp, getting Pickett better, but Russ is going to start the season because he's the veteran.
See, I don't know. I don't like that move. I don't like that if that's the case. Because then what are you telling Kenny Pickett? If because if Russ does have a short leash and he gets benched after week 4, right?
He's so
What
young. Tell the kid to stay ready.
he's
If you're
not
a pro,
that
you
young.
stay.
He's like 27.
If you if you're a pro, you stay ready though. You don't think
Understandable,
about it like
understandable, but I think the only way that this is a win-win for the Steelers if you both sit them down and say, "Hey, both of you guys, this is an open, true competition, and whoever wins wins." That's when it becomes a win-win for the Steelers, in my opinion.
Yeah. It's
Personally, like
interesting how the
that's just how I look at it, I guess. Just giving the job to Russ,
okay.
I
Let
don't see how
me
that immediately helps Kenny Pickett do better. You know
let
what I
me
mean?
put it like this: the Steelers not trading for a young quarterback or signing a young quarterback makes me think an older Russell Wilson is what they think is the last piece to making a Super Bowl run. So I don't think
But they
because
wouldn't have signed
think
him
about it,
if he was at
Russell
1.2
Wilson does
mil.
not fit that timeline. Russell Wilson does not fit the timeline of any of those young guys. So I guarantee you, they think he is that last piece or a part of their last pieces. Like adding Patrick Queen, I think is a big deal. So like I think they have a shot at the Super Bowl this year, and I think that's what they think.
It'll be interesting to see. Let's transition over into the NFC a little bit. I'm just going to bring up a trade and we can kind of go, or not a trade, but I'm going to bring up an individual team that I think has had a good offseason so far, and then we can kind of continue the conversation from there. I think the Bears have had a really solid offseason.
I love talking
And
about the Bears.
yeah, they brought in DeAndre Swift, who I think is
Mhm.
on a decent running back deal. He's on a 3-year, $24 million deal, which is mid-market running back money at this point. He had a career year last year with the Eagles. So I think that's a good deal. They brought back a couple of offensive linemen. They signed Gerald Everett. They brought back Jalen Johnson. They brought in Kevin Byard and Jonathan Owens. And then
Mhm.
Brett Ripien is just going to be, that backup QB because they still plan to
Camp
run
arm.
Justin Fields while they bring in
Mhm.
Caleb Williams. So
Can I
pretty
ask you
good.
something real quick?
Yeah.
You just mentioned both quarterbacks that I'm about to bring up. So do you think they're building this team like they're going to draft Caleb Williams, or do you think they're keeping Fields at this point? Because at this point, you would have thought they would have traded Fields by now.
I have an interesting viewpoint on this because hypothetically speaking, what if Foles just does not like Caleb Williams? Just doesn't like his antics pre-draft, or doesn't like what he sees on tape for whatever reason, right?
Yeah, so
What
the
what is
antics are
that?
definitely a thing.
Right. What is that like, if we go off of that, what does that imply? That they'll probably trade out of the pick. And the only way that I think they trade out of the pick is if they can stay high enough to keep Marvin Harrison Jr. Otherwise, it's not worth it.
I would see
because
them trading to either the Cardinals or the Patriots, 3 or 4.
or even the Commanders. Shit. I mean,
Yeah.
if because at this point, if you're the Bears, you say, hey, you know it's a bidding war for Caleb Williams. Like,
Yeah.
let's go.
Right. Well, and Cliff
And
Kingsbury, right? Cliff Kingsbury is at the Commanders now, who is at
uh
USC with Caleb Williams at the number 2 pick.
right, exactly. And so if you're the Commanders, what do you deem acceptable to go up and get somebody who you presumably like in Caleb Williams? Now, once again, if you're the Bears, you have the biggest balls in the NFL to bet on Justin Fields after the entire NFL just said, "Nah, we're good," basically, because they tried to get rid of him. They've been trying for weeks. So, but no, but I like the thought processes of it. If they feel comfortable and they know what they have in Justin Fields, um, truly build around him. And I think that Marvin Harrison Jr., you still have pick number 9. Okay, what can you do with pick number 9? Well, you already have Cole Kmet. Let's see. You know, maybe manipulate the draft board a little bit, maybe come up for Joe Alt. Like there's so many different things you can do, I think. Um, that doesn't involve taking Caleb Williams, but you also are going to get crucified for that. So how much conviction do you have doing that
Right.
and building around him?
But the
Well,
thing is, there's no true like rumor on them actually trading Fields though. Like I feel like the media just jumped on the idea of, oh, you're the number 1 pick, you have to pick Caleb Williams. They don't have to.
Right, but they've
So I
been
think that
shopping him and they just haven't been getting any offers that they think is good.
I'm
right.
sure they're entertaining the idea. That doesn't mean they're strongly going after it. And at this point, I don't believe any trade's happening. And if it
No,
is, you basically get a bag of chips at this point. I guarantee it's like Justin Fields for a 6th. And at that point, like you look ridiculous.
Yeah.
Which is actually, I want to ask you guys a question once you're done, Zach.
Well, I
freelance for
mean,
a fourth.
yeah, I mean this draft isn't very deep, right? So that's the other thing is if you throw Fields out there for a 6th, like a 6th round pick in this draft, you're like you might as well have
That's
just
shit.
taken an undrafted free agent. Yeah,
Yeah,
like it's not a very deep draft. There is a lot of high end talent in the first like 3 to 4 rounds, but those day 3 guys are
fall
it's
off quick.
yeah, I mean it falls off really quick in this draft. So
Mhm.
the other thing that I think is interesting though is like when you talk about NFL front offices looking at all this and the media that they try to the rumors they try to spread and the things they try to get released to try to build those
Arm up,
stories around what they're
whatever.
trying to do, right, build the narrative. I think the only way that the Bears can presumably even stay with Justin Fields and trade the number 1 pick is if they make everyone believe that they're going to take Caleb Williams.
Hmm.
Right.
So
Yeah, I
part
don't
of me
think this
believes
is
like all of these news stories, or like all this talk about like, oh, we're trying to trade Justin Fields, we're trying to do this. All they're doing is like making the number 1 pick more valuable, making the idea that
Mhm.
Caleb Williams is their guy. So then when they flip the script and say, oh, okay, like we'll entertain some offers. Because
It's a mad scramble.
like we've seen some crazy trades, right? Like what happens if the Commanders offer number 2? Um, I don't know. Like there's a chance the Bears could move back, and what if there's a QB there in the beginning of the second round?
That
Like
they like. So you're thinking like Bo Nix or Penix?
right,
Yeah.
exactly. What if they like one of
Yeah.
those guys in the second round? They could get early in the second round, and then you still trade back to 2, 3, 4, pick up Marvin Harrison Jr., pick up a second round pick, still get a QB you like, and now
Hmm.
you got everything else that you get in that trade package for the number 1 pick.
Hmm.
Like but again, the only way that they can do that is if they make everyone believe that their plan was all along to just trade Justin Fields and take
Right.
Caleb Williams.
Well, yeah. If you're like you said, if your plan is to truly get off the pick, then like you said, drum up as much noise because you're not get like teams are not going to want to do what the Niners did, right? So like, the Commanders really don't have an option to trade the pick before the draft unless somebody is really truly could, believes in a specific quarterback not named Caleb Williams.
Right.
But like you said, like you want to drum up as much, desire for that pick, and I think that you do that on draft night, when people are least expecting you to do that.
Right.
Yeah. One thing I was going to ask you guys, and I think you guys kind of clarified your opinions on this, because I made a comment as a Cowboys fan saying that the Cowboys front office not making any moves looks worse than the Bears not trading Justin Fields. So I wanted you guys' thoughts on that because I think that is a true thing. Um, that's just how I feel about it. So I just want to throw that out there.
So you're asking if the Cowboys or the Bears look worse right now for the Justin Fields situation or the not doing anything situation?
Yeah.
Yeah, the Cowboys will 100% look worse.
Yeah, I think the Cowboys too, because with the Cowboys situation, all those names once they sign, like they're off the board, right? Like you can't go back from that. But with the
Except for
Justin,
Eric Hendricks.
right? But yeah, but with the Justin Fields situation, it's like there's a lot of time before the draft yet, and a lot can still happen.
Hmm.
So like, and even like Justin Fields' value could go up again before the draft, for all we know. Like the NFL is like a weird ecosystem. More news could come out, whatever. So I think like the Bears in their situation, like they're trying to think about a process that's going to span over the next month or two yet. Whereas the Cowboys, like when free agency opens and you just sit on your hands and all those guys get taken out and they all sign contracts and now you're sitting there with nothing. Like now there's nothing you can do about it.
Yeah.
So that's
I
where I would
think this
differentiate
is
it.
I think this is a good way to lead into like a bunch of the NFC moves here. But like them not doing anything and watching Saquon go to the Eagles, watching Eckler go to the Commanders, watching McKinney and Jacobs go into the Packers. Like all of
Burns
these
going to the
teams,
Giants.
yeah, Burns goes to the Giants. I'm not saying in this case the Giants are surpassing the Cowboys by any
But they're
means,
making moves.
but like if the Giants are here, that move brings them right here. If you're even the Falcons at this point because of Kirk Cousins, like if you say the Falcons, Packers, Eagles, all those teams, they're going like this, and the Cowboys are just staying here.
Right.
Mhm.
So I think a lot of these moves are very good for a lot of teams, and then the Cowboys are just sitting and watching them surpass. And I texted you guys. I was in the group chat saying there's at least 5 or 6 better teams than the Cowboys in their own conference.
Right.
Uh,
Right.
Well, and it's funny about that when you're saying that is you kind of just made me think it's like you guys are staying, right here and teams are passing you up. As a Niners fan, I'm looking at what we've done. And we've actually gone from where we were at the top of the conference to, in my opinion, slightly lower. You know what I mean? Like we Eric Armstead just got released because we don't have the cap to keep him. And we haven't signed anybody, in my opinion, that's going to bring comparable production to what he has.
Especially in the
And
playoffs. Especially in the
especially
playoffs.
in the playoffs, exactly, 100%. I mean, like this is a guy that you're talking about the Niners to saying that he's the blueprint of how their defense works, right? And it's like a piece like that, a Walter Payton Man of the Year, the longest tenured Niner on the team. You know, we're not, teams are getting better now. I'm not going to sit here and say that like, obviously, I think the Eagles probably right now with the moves that they've made, and I've heard that they're potentially going to sign Justin Simmons, or they've been in talks with him, like they're an insane roster. But like you said, like as the Niners been making moves, but it's a lot of offsetting stuff where, you know what I mean? Like we're kind of, the NFC is the talent's rising up and up and up, and it's gonna be like the AFC these past couple of years, in my opinion.
Wide
I'll
open.
say pause on that thought. I think it's definitely a big hit that you lose him, but I do like the Floyd signing. But on
Oh,
another
I love
note,
the Floyd signing. I love it. But now
yeah.
they don't play the same position. One's a defensive tackle,
Yeah.
one's
Yeah.
a
Different
lanky
impact. Different.
outside linebacker type.
I mean,
So
maybe they saw enough from Javon Hargrave last year where they were just like, we're chilling.
yeah,
Yeah,
but the
yeah.
I mean, I know that they need the opposite type of Javon Hargrave defensive tackle because he's a penetrator, he's a pass rusher. He's not as stout against the run, and we have no Javon Kinlaw, we have no Eric Armstead. So, I
I
think
agree
that
I agree
uh,
it's a miss, but you guys do really well in the draft.
Tavondre Sweat, 31. You are
All right. So
356 pounds.
with all this being said, Bender, do you have more to say about the Niners or the
Well,
NFC?
I was gonna make a comment about the Justin Simmons thing. I was told, or I heard that the Eagles are out of the running for Simmons, and I was told Simmons is looking at going with the Steelers.
Well, that's good to hear. I mean, from an NFC side of things,
From
geez,
NFC side of things,
Patrick
yes.
Patrick Queen
Bro,
and
Simmons is
if
good
you put
friends
Simmons
with
Simmons and
Minka
Fitzpatrick
Fitzpatrick.
back there,
with Minka Fitzpatrick with TJ Watt with Cam Hayward with Alex Highsmith.
Hmm.
You guys just got Deontay Jackson.
Joey Porter
who at
Jr.
least
still
is a
You
going.
guys are
starting caliber.
in a position. I mean, 20. I mean, that's good position for a corner. That's not named Terrion Arnold or Quinyon Mitchell.
Yeah. Oh,
Kool-Aid McKinstry, long range. Ugh,
I didn't,
Steelers.
I didn't know that. Bender, how recent was that Justin Simmons stuff?
Uh,
Back when he had
I
hair.
heard about the Steelers rumor yesterday. I heard about the Eagles rumor yesterday, but then that was shut down today. Um,
I saw the Eagles thing yesterday too.
Interesting.
yeah,
Yeah. So we'll see
so
how that plays out. Obviously, that would be incredible as a Steelers
Look at
fan.
him trying to hide that smile.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not hiding it. That would be freaking awesome. Hey, I think he has the most interceptions in the entire league since he's come into the league in like 2017 when he was drafted or something. Like
Yeah,
I think he has like
probably
24
something like
picks
that. He's a
in those
dog.
years. Yeah, I mean, he is an incredible talent, which honestly makes me also question what is going on in Denver.
It's the Sean Payton show, man.
Yeah,
Got
but
carried by
anyway,
Drew Brees, and now he's got an ego.
we got a couple minutes left here. So now that we've talked about all these free agency moves, and we left out a lot still because there was a
Because
lot that
I
happened.
was going to talk about Raiders, and they're talking about
Yeah.
Hunter Renfrow is
Oh
Chris
yeah, dude,
Wilkins is my
there's
best
so much.
friend. He was in my wedding, and 2 days
Honestly,
later he gets cut.
oh,
Oh
no.
no!
Honestly, what we should do is we should
No.
have had like a 4 hour free agency like live stream special because there's
Actually,
just
would
way
have
too
been
much to
fucking.
talk
That would have
about.
been
But
sick.
with all the free agency moves that have happened to this point, what is your guys' way too early Super Bowl predictions for next season in the current moment? Just the teams, the two
Packers
teams,
Ravens.
and then the
Packers
winner.
Ravens. That's all I'm saying.
Packers,
way too,
Ravens.
way
Packers
too
Ravens.
early.
Who wins?
Ravens.
Okay.
Way too early. Um,
Packers were kicking ass last year
we're we're
with
talking
Josh
health.
Jacobs.
We're talking health though. Um,
That's a healthy.
I'm still gonna take the Texans on my end. I'm gonna take
Oh,
the Texans.
they're clear. Oh, I guess. I mean, they could clear the Chiefs. I guess. They have a
We need to see the Chiefs make a move. I think they still have moves to make.
I mean, they
Uh,
re-signed the best defensive player in the league right now, so
yeah.
big move.
The NFC is so tough, dude. Um,
Bender's like, what team can I say that isn't the Cowboys?
I don't
You
even
can say
want to
the
watch.
Niners, Bender. That's okay.
I don't even want to watch the Cowboys. See, my thing with the Eagles is I like Saquon and I like that addition, but the way they ended last year makes me think they still have a lot more issues to deal with.
Hey, I'm sorry. I do not think that the Saquon signing is as big of a deal as everybody thinks it is. I think that Josh Jacobs going to the Packers is by far and beyond much more of an impact for a team that had playoff or Super Bowl hopes on the NFC side than the
I
Saquon.
agree, and it depends on how you use Saquon because Kellen Moore's goofy ass is sitting over there as their coordinator now, so I don't know how
Yeah.
that's going to work out.
Well, I heard that
But
they
that being said,
specifically targeted Saquon because of he wanted him for because he's a perfect scheme fit for
but I
Kellen.
mean, but so
So
what you're saying there is that you think Josh Jacobs is a bigger upgrade over Aaron Jones than
And what Saquon was for Swift.
Saquon was over
yes,
DeAndre Swift.
yes, yes.
I don't know if I agree with that. I
We'll
don't know.
see.
That could be another interesting
We'll
conversation.
see. We'll see.
Because yeah, I mean, we'll see. But I mean, I do agree that I don't think is as big of a deal as people are mentioning because DeAndre Swift is an incredible running back, and it's not like the Eagles had poor running back play last year. But in the
I
same
think he's
token, it's not
incredible.
like the Packers
I
had
think he's
poor.
good.
It's not like the Packers had poor running back play either. Like they had Aaron Jones. Like, did
No,
you see what Aaron
yeah,
Jones did to the Cowboys last year?
right. But it was also a 1-2 punch out of necessity for a 1-2 punch
Yeah.
versus Josh Jacobs is going to own those carries.
Yeah. All right. So
He's
Bender
one of the
though.
true workhorses.
Bender, Texans are your AFC team.
I'm still going to say the Niners just because they have a lot of core guys still sitting there.
And then who wins?
I'll say that.
I was going to say the Niners win just because I think CJ Stroud's inexperience would get mangled by their defense still.
I don't know, man. You got to also think Kyle Shanahan going against Miko.
That's gonna be bad for you, but
Shanahan gets owned in the big games.
it's
Yeah.
true.
All right.
Hey, way too early. Got to see signings. You got to see the draft.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Like, I mean, these are taking shots in the dark still, right? I think
Andre Swift.
I'm still going to go Chiefs. I think Chiefs are my AFC team still because on this podcast,
You
I
read the
rock with
script.
Mahomes. I
You
rock
read the
with Mahomes,
script.
yeah. And they're the champs. I think there's a chance they could three-peat. So yeah, so I'm gonna rock with the Chiefs on the AFC side. And on the NFC side, I'm gonna go the Lions.
I knew you were gonna say that. You were just trying to be different than all of us, and that's a good answer. I'm not shading you for that.
Yeah, but I mean, like, I mean, it's Lions were a team where we agreed last year that they're going to make at least the NFC Championship, and we watched them play really well, right? And they lost to the Niners in divisional. Was the divisional round?
Yeah,
No, championship game.
Was the NFC
The
championship?
Lions? Yeah, the
Yeah.
Lions the championship game. Yeah, we were down 17 in the third or at
Yeah, I
half.
mean,
Or
so like the Lions like really had a chance to make the Super Bowl last year, and I think that was a little bit of an experience too from that team because they had not been in that moment yet. But I don't think that they'll make that mistake again. And it's only going to be another good round of drafts, even though after the draft, we're all going to say Brad Holmes is an idiot. And then we're going to realize 10 weeks into the season that he made some really good moves. And then I think they're going to make another deep run. So I'm going to say Lions, Chiefs, and I think Chiefs 3-peat.
Real quick, I feel like the Lions stayed the same this offseason, though, if not got worse, because they lost CJ Gardner-Johnson and some corner depth.
CJ Gardner
I,
Johnson. No, I thought they retained some
Yeah,
corners.
CJ
They
Gardner
traded
Johnson
they
was
traded for
actually
Carlton Davis
they did
and
trade for Carlton Davis.
they re-signed Mosley, who in
and
my opinion, no
CJ
ex
Gardner Johnson also wasn't there most of the season. He was
he's a
on
punk. He's weak. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I
And
don't
we
like
JGJ
also
weak.
we brought the Lions brought in Marcus Davenport. They
Yep.
signed Graham Glasgow and Jalen Reese-Maybin, brought in Carlton Davis, kept Emmanuel Mosley, who didn't even see the field last year, and then
Yeah, he had
also
an
brought in
ACL
Demond
tear.
Robertson. So they signed they shored up their cornerbacks, their secondary and stuff.
And I'm pretty sure they had a visit with DJ Reader. Not that that's anything, in stone, but
And
he's one
and
of the best defensive tackles available coming off a quad tear.
we'll wrap up here, but Ben Johnson is also staying, which is a big deal as the OC. So thank you again, everyone, for listening. Please like and subscribe. Follow us on all the things, Spotify, Twitter. Come interact with us, and we'll see you on the next podcast.